This crowd rises to its feet. Okoro slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Garland front of the lane, lob to Mobley. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo TV. Watch over 100 channels of live sports and TV for half the cost of cable. There's no contract and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com. We have an incredibly exciting show for you guys today, but before we get to the stuff that people actually care about, I have to introduce my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. A sad loss in Memphis, but altogether an encouraging one, I would say. Down Donnie, and hard to be too grumpy, but let's waste no time. We have greatness in our midst, Justin.
We absolutely do. That was a heartbreaking loss, but you know what? My heart's already warm because we are joined today by Cleveland Cavaliers legend. Brad Daugherty joins the podcast. Brad, how are you doing today?
Justin and Carter, I'm doing just fine. How are you guys doing this evening?
Honestly, I'm doing well. I'm up here in Canada. It's not very cold right now. It's actually kind of mild. I'm enjoying that aspect. Like we mentioned, Cavs had a bit of a heartbreaking loss, but I thought overall a really good showing. Let's get right into it. Let's get to how your experience has been back with the Cavs. I know I speak for Carter and myself and our listeners that we've really enjoyed you on the broadcast. How has that experience been getting back involved with the team?
You know, it's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying being around the young guys and spending time with them and getting to talk to them about my experiences and the things that they're experiencing. And also doing the broadcast has just been a lot of fun. Have a great time doing the games and, just watching the ebbs and flows of the season, being around the game, being around pro basketball and Cavalier basketball in particular it's just a lot of fun. I'm tickled to have the opportunity to do so. And I'm thankful for the Cavs for asking me to step into the opportunity. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. What have you kind of gotten to experience, in terms of you were off in NASCAR land for some time. How close were you following the game while you were, obviously you're a wildly multi-talented broadcaster going all over the place, but, how connected to basketball were you while you were working in NASCAR at that time?
Well, yeah, I still do. I still do the pre-race show for NBC in NASCAR. I own a NASCAR team. But see, I actually was moonlighting it with ESPN. I did NBA Tonight for, probably 10, 11, 12 years. And I also did the Sports Center bit probably up to about 5 years ago. For about 10 years, Tim Legler and I did the NBA basketball recap. And then I also did college basketball. So I was cruising along there. And then I kind of stepped away about maybe 4 years ago because it was just killing me. I was doing
It's a lot of work.
It was a lot. I was trying to do college and pro basketball for them, and just got to where I was a little burnt out. But I've always kept up, and I watched the games and spent a lot of time. I'm in Charlotte a lot, so I was I go to a lot of Charlotte Hornets games. Go with Michael, go watch his team play a little bit, and spent a lot of time around the league. Got a lot of friends in the league, a couple of owners, a couple of GMs. Pat Riley's a friend, so I would go watch those guys practice and watch them play, and we just talk basketball. So I've been around. I haven't gone anywhere. I've just kind of been around.
Yeah. What's it been like kind of diving back in with just one team, though, going from covering the whole league to really having access, especially I would imagine more so here than most places, just given, your status as a Cavs legend. What's that experience been like actually, spending, pretty much the majority of the season with just one team?
Yeah, it's been great. I came back 2 years ago, and it all started when we were having retirement ceremonies and ushering in players to the Wall of Honor. Something we started a couple seasons back, and just had a conversation one afternoon with Kobe Altman, the president of our basketball team, and GM. Obviously, and we just were talking about the Cavs and what I saw and what I've been up to. And the night of the ceremony, they asked me if I wanted to do a little TV just as a, part-time thing, just as a quarter or so. And so I sat down, we did some TV, and after the game, the TV folks approached and said, "Hey, would you like to do a few more games?" I said, "Sure, I'll do a few games." And a few games turned into a lot, and then Kobe and I started talking more and more about the basketball side of things, and just he just asking me my opinion, and I gave him my opinion on some things, and he wanted me to come around a little more. So I said, "Sure, be glad to, love to." And it's been a lot of fun coming back and watching our team. Like I said, we've got a young basketball team that's got a tremendous amount of talent, tremendous amount of ability, and watching, going all the way back, to a couple of seasons ago where, we're trying to figure out who we were, we're trying to figure out who a coach is going to be, and that type of thing, to where we are now, with a little bit more of a stable platform, has been a lot of fun to have entree to. And like I say, just spending time around these guys has been incredible to watch them and to talk to them, and some of the questions they ask, I find it interesting, because these guys are, they've got a different platform to play from today than what I played on 30 years ago. But, at the end of the day, the game is still kind of the same. And so we've got some really smart young men on our basketball team that ask really inquisitive questions about how to be successful, and, not only on the court, but off the court. So it's been a lot of fun. And I'm just tickled to death to have the opportunity to come in and mentor some of these young guys.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we can say that you are another great addition by Kobe Altman to this team.
The man doesn't miss.
The man doesn't miss. And you know what? It comes through. Like, it comes through on the broadcast when someone's really enjoying the game and having fun. And you certainly seem to be having a lot of fun there. You mentioned kind of getting to know the team and getting a sense for who these guys are as people. What's your experience been like, kind of just getting to know the team better culturally? Like, how have you enjoyed kind of connecting with the players on that level?
It's been interesting. Again, Kobe and I talked a lot about this basketball team, and I watch these guys play, and you approach them from the standpoint of, okay, they kind of know who you are a little bit just because they're in the building, and you can see some of the things that the pictures and the data, and if you nose around a little bit, you kind of realize who either myself or an Austin Carr or someone like that is. And so you start talking to them, and I usually wait. My thing is always try to encourage guys, if they have an evening where they stumble, I still try to encourage them to continue to lean up against it. And I think as they see and understand that you're there supporting what they're trying to accomplish, they start talking. Different guys start talking to you, and it comes from out of different places. I mean, one night it could be Donovan Mitchell talking to me about his shot, or another night it could be, Karis LeVert talking to me about getting over top of a screen, what I see, or Jared Allen talking about picks and rolls. How do you play that pick and roll? How did I play the pick and roll? And just talking about all these different things. And I've even had some, good conversations with Coach Bickerstaff about, guarding up around the perimeter and just things I see. And so it's just been real organic. I don't go in, I don't proclaim anything. And, usually I'm just in there eating the free food. I'm really good at that, hanging out, eating meals with these guys. But I just like talking to them. And when they want to break it down and we start talking about basketball, it's great. And some guys want to talk about business opportunities. What does that look like? How do you do that? Which way do you go? Who do you trust? And so that type of thing. And I'm always glad to lend an experienced ear to those conversations as well. So they're all over the board. We have all kinds of. We've talked about everything from professional wrestling to NASCAR to cryptocurrencies to it's a free flowing conversation with these young men. And like I say, you got some really, really bright young men on our basketball team. So we have guys that fit into the culture of Cleveland that we could be very, very proud of. And I'm just really happy, like I say, to be able to come in and nose around and offer an opinion here or there and get to sit and call these games is just an absolute blast.
Did that line up with kind of your expectations of being around a team? Like you hear a lot of, especially around young teams, you typically hear a lot of gripes about the young players. in the league about, how they're focused on their brand and, not necessarily on the court. And it doesn't sound like that's been your experience at all.
No, it's not been that at all. I think the thing today is we all have to acquiesce just a little bit. I talk to Charles Barkley every once in a while. I actually play golf with him every once in a while. He's a horrible golfer, but we talk, and some of the guys of my era, a little older and right around, even when I see them as sidebar conversations, they really don't like the game today. And I disagree. I think that, I watch these guys play. I think the athletes are better than ever. I think the game is obviously different. And sometimes as old heads, we have a really difficult time accepting change. And I think that's one of the issues with the commentary on guys, looking at their brand or there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm an old school guy. I'm a Clint Eastwood, Gran Torino guy. I'm an old school guy. But I think it's interesting when you have guys who are smart enough and who have the intellectual IQ to have other interests. I think that these guys work really, really hard. Everyone works really, really hard, and they're focused on their craft. But if they're building their brand as well alongside what they're doing, there's nothing wrong with that. I think we look at professional athletes a lot of times and we try to pick apart the reasoning, and that's just not it. That's not. You can't sit and stare at a basketball for 24 hours and just dig through the minutia because it doesn't do any good. You
hit a point of diminishing returns, right?
100%. You see it with golfers a lot. I was watching golf today, and Lucas Glover yipped on like an 8-inch putt, and so I had a great conversation. I was talking with Matt Kuchar one time about the game of golf and kind of where the yips come from. Because if you think about it, all these great golfers get towards the kind of the latter parts of their careers and they get the yips. They can't, they get the flinches when they chip and they putt. And it's because as a golfer, you grow up hitting thousands and thousands and thousands of golf balls, hundreds of thousands. It's a little different basketball. You can shoot thousands of shots, but you're sitting there with a golf ball. When you go out on a driving range, there could be 100 balls in a pile, and you could hit maybe 10 of those a day. When you go with a basketball, you usually just got one ball. So I think it's overusage that eventually creates that thing because you're working on perfection. And if it's not natural after a while, it becomes a tendency to flinch. And I think that's what we're getting into today with these athletes is we've got to recognize that getting away from the game into a space, now it can't be a space of aggravation or something that's going to cause concern or worry, but if it's something they can turn their minds to alleviate their minds of the stress of being a professional athlete, I think that's pretty healthy. I think that's a good thing.
I go straight to Jarrett Allen winning Player of the Week last year, and clearly annoyed everyone's trying to hug him while he's trying to play his Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. That's a whole different cat. He's a different cat altogether. Yeah.
He seems like one of the most unique dudes in the league, but like just a total sweet guy. But like, and I actually wanted to ask you about both him and Evan, because both those guys are not your typical snarling big men.
No.
Both very gently spoken guys. And, I feel like there's a lot of, when you kind of see those soft-spoken bigs, sometimes people wonder, like, oh, do they really love the game, or are they, just cosmically here because they're tall, athletic freaks?
Yeah.
But it seems like those guys really, really love the game, despite their being soft-spoken. They love contact too. Can you talk a little bit about your experience watching those guys?
Oh, absolutely. They work extremely hard, and the thing about both of those guys, when you talk about Jarrett and Evan, they're not physically imposing guys. They're very slight of build. And that's kind of when you look at, I know other teams and look at their scouting reports and things like that. And that's kind of what teams try to do. They try to get into Jarrett and Evan and move them around because they're slightly built. But what you see is with both of them, they're incredibly athletic and incredibly explosive. So they're not going to beat you. Jarrett Allen's not going to go out and toss Joel Embiid around. That's just not going to happen. but he can participate at a level, with an energy, with an explosiveness that matches maybe that size and strength of Joel Embiid. So they're unique in that way. And then that's Jerry. Jerry's just really explosive, very long, plays very hard, and really, really goes at the game aggressively and without fear. Evan is kind of a unicorn because of his tremendous size. I mean, he's 6'11", right in there, and 6'10", 6'11", and his reach, is like a 7'5" guy. His reach, he's so long, but then you take his footwork is that of a small forward, maybe even some two guards in the league. So, but they fit into today's game much better than they would have obviously 15, 20 years ago, because the game today is played in much more space and forward facing as opposed to when I played the game eons ago. So I think they're the prototypical NBA player in today's game.
Yeah, I'd actually love to pick your brain about the evolution of the big man, because it seemed like for a while the NBA was trending towards small ball, right? Like, let's get skill at every single position. And now it seems like that has continued, but now it's the big men being asked to do more, like to provide some playmaking and really play a well-rounded game. And you yourself, you were ahead of that curve, right? As a big man that could provide playmaking. And honestly, that Cavs roster, you look back at it, it was ahead of the curve in general. Like, Mark Price played a very kind of modern game. Larry Nance was that athletic four that could do a bunch of things, and you as a center that could get a triple-double. How have you liked the evolution of the big man, especially in recent years?
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch, over the past decade. When you look at the game 10 years ago, and the big guys started playing more forward facing, and it was kind of a very stark contrast, obviously, when we played. But I always likened it to, or I always thought the change happened over a decade ago because of AAU basketball. AAU, in my opinion, teaches players to be kind of positionless, and it teaches everyone to shoot the basketball. You look into its volume of shot as opposed to quantity. So 10 years ago, you look at this league, and the big guy starting to face the basket, but you saw a little bit of a lack of fundamentals overall, because there's not time to teach in AAU. You play. And so you see some remnants of that. You see guys that have no idea ball, man, spacing, those types of things. They're incredible athletes, but they don't know how to play the game. But what's starting to evolve is guys on their own, their own volition, are starting to understand, to be effective as a 7-footer in today's game, you have to bring something unique to the table. If you're not a shooter, if you can't shoot threes, you can't handle the basketball, then what can you do to earn opportunity to play? And I think Jared Allen's a great example of what you have to become. If you're gonna play with your back to the basket, you also have to be a dynamic shot blocker. You have to be able to go out on the floor and defend two guards in pick and rolls and those types of things. You're not going to shoot threes, but you're going to be asked to do everything else. So it's evolved to that. It's evolved to where, I think one of the most interesting people in the league is Brook Lopez.
I completely changed his game.
That was unbelievable. When I watched him play early on, his game reminded me of him a lot when I watched him play, and I loved watching him play. I thought he was dominant as a post-up center, and to see his game where it's changed and what he has done, which is so hard to do, is remarkable. It's remarkable because you look at his body structure and everything like that, it doesn't fit with what he does now, but he does it incredibly well. So, like I said, I think it's still some of the AAU effect, but I also think it's the modern game of basketball. But I will say this, I think that's where we're really smart is, last year it was unique having the 3 7-footers in that lineup. And you could see, there are times in today's game where it becomes about volume of shot with 3-pointers, because some teams just absolutely I mean, it's going up.
It's a math problem at a certain point, right?
I mean, it's 3 versus 2. It's just simple math. But I think every fourth, fifth possession, you slow that basketball down, and you take advantage of some clock, and you take advantage of execution, and you get a really good shot, not just a shot. Because I don't ever know when a 30-foot shot's a good shot. We may make some of them, but I don't ever know if it's a good shot. That I see, like, Karis LeVert, to me, gets a lot of good shots. Now, he misses some of them, but it's where he's shooting the ball from and the position he's put himself in. He'll step into that gap in the lane or dribble drive it in there, right, 8-9 feet a lot. And that's a good shot. That is a good shot, because now if he misses that shot, you've got rebounding presence because people are there. It's probably not going to rebound and bounce out 25, 30 feet. It's a good opportunity. So I think that's where we're smart. We take advantage of Evan sometimes in the post-up. We take advantage of Jarrett sometimes in the post-up. And Donovan is excellent at getting to the front of the rim, as well as Darius. And then you look at what else, Isaac in transition is getting to the front of the goal. You've got to get to the front of the goal, because that's where foul opportunity, that's where you beat up on that defense. That's how you create an advantage. And when you don't do that, if you just have a bad shooting night, you're going to get beat. But if you have the good balance, a good 70-30 balance, you can shoot the ball on the perimeter 70% of the time, but you give that 30% enough attention, you're going to be tough to beat if you're efficient.
Yeah, I mean,
I
rim pressure is super, super important for this team, for a billion obvious reasons, especially since they are playing 2 to 2.5, quote unquote non-shooters on the floor most of the time. I did want to ask you a little bit about Donovan Mitchell, because Justin and I, we had our own kind of wake up call where we're like, oh, we thought we knew what this guy was, but we didn't. Did you have kind of a similar experience going from, watching him maybe, I don't know, like 5-6 times a year to, every single night and learning what he was capable of?
Yeah, just exactly. I mean, watched him a few times a year when Utah would play or the playoffs and things like that. And, just thought he was a really good player with a lot of potential, but never really put much thought into it. And then he gets here, or when Kobe tells me he's coming on board, I'm like, oh man, okay, that's an interesting piece. And I was trying to wrap my mind around how's this going to work? And then, you get to see him live under the various circumstances at the beginning of this season. Start out, you get to watch him play. You see he and Darius, how are they going to mesh together? And Darius has the eye injury, and JB looks at him and says, man, I need you to lead. And so when he asked him to lead, I was saying to myself, okay, what's this going to look like? Is this going to be I'm leading with 50 shots, and we get beat, or not at all? I mean, this guy, the thing I love about him is he's a communicator. He talks to the guys. He puts people in position, and he just went to work. He scored 35, 40 points, but handed out 6, 7, 8 assists. And I say it all the time. I've watched him play 40 games, and I can maybe count 3 or 5 shots he's taken in this many games now that I would say were marginal. Maybe he didn't need to take that shot. That was not a great shot. 3 to 5. Most people,
I thought that was going to be
3 to 5 a night.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be that way, 3 to 5 a game. I don't think I understood what a smart player he was.
No, he takes. I mean, these big shots he hit. These are all within the offense. I mean, he doesn't take just wild shots. You watch some guys, some of these teams, and one of the teams I noticed is like the Atlanta Hawks. These guys take some wild shots.
Oh, you're speaking our language with little Hawk slander, Brad.
You just watch him. I watched him play the other night, and I was like, yeah, oh, that's a terrible shot. There's no one on the backboard. It's just going up, So he doesn't do that. He doesn't put his teammates in that position, and he's unselfish. And he's not just there to shoot. Man, his drive to the basket is phenomenal. I mean, that little layup where he kind of gets, he contorts his body and
he
shovels
hangs.
it underneath.
He hangs in the air.
I'm blown away. I had no idea he had this much ability. I really didn't. And I'm really, and the thing I really like is just talking to the young man. He's very thoughtful. He's very bright. He's very meaningful when you talk to him. He wants to do really, really well, and he wants everyone around him to be successful. So we got a gem, and I give Kobe Altman just that. Hey man, you get the huge pat on the back for this one, because this is something that could set ourselves for several years.
I mean, the Cavs definitely feel like they're set up for a very long time. And it's kind of a fun full circle moment here, because the last time the NBA All-Star game was in Salt Lake City, the Cavs were really well represented. There was you, Mark, as well as Larry. Do you feel kind of a full circle moment? And I'd encourage listeners as well. There's still some time to do some fan voting. Let's at least get Donovan in as a starter. I think he's our best chance as a starter, and then the rest will come down to coaches. Is there kind of a full circle moment looking back at that, at the Cavs once again having this young core of talent that all kind of fits together, and the game being back in Utah?
Oh, no doubt about it. The game in Salt Lake City, Larry, Mark, and myself played. That was so much fun. Just representing Cleveland, representing our town. We had struggled, or the franchise had struggled for a lot of years, and we come rolling into town and we get rid of those orange U-Haul jerseys, and we got a new. We got a new attitude, and we were building on something great there. And to go to Salt Lake and represent the Cavaliers was just we had so much fun, such a great time. And to look at it now, yeah, I mean, it brings back a lot of memories. And I look at this team, and I see the similarities, and I think we've got to be really patient. We got to be really careful, because there's a lot that still has to be accomplished. This team needs a little more seasoning, a little more experience, and callousness or a little bit more callous, in order to win big. But man, almost all the pieces are out on the chessboard. And so keep putting them together, keep building. You got to earn it. You just don't get it, but you can't say well, again, I'm going to say it 1,000 times tonight. Kobe Altman has done his job. He has given us tremendous pieces, and now it's up to us to get these pieces in the right position, take advantage, maximize potential, get the most out of every player in the right way, and do it as a group, and continue in all of that. The biggest thing is reestablishing culture here in Cleveland. It's so important. You go, it's so fun. You go to a Miami Heat practice, it is a trip. Or you go down, and I go sit and watch, and it's just like it. I mean, it's like the military. There's no doubt about it. And there's that hierarchy, and then when Riles comes in, it's just like a general, 5-star general, 4-star general just walked in the building. And but that culture's there, and that's where we've got to get to. We go through the era of having LeBron, and when you have that once in a generational talent, it's kind of just up to you not to screw it up, and so you get to ride that wave. But in a lot of ways, that's obviously that's not sustainable. And so who are you when that goes away? And I'll keep talking about the Heat because I'm a big Pat Riley fan, but 24/7, who are you? And that's where you've got to get to, and this young team has to get to, in order to be respected, not only night in, night out, but throughout the league. You have to have the officials' respect. You have to have the league's respect. You've got to get a call every once in a while because you deserve it, not because you're Cleveland. You don't get the call. And people say, well, that does. Yeah, it does. I mean, everybody's human in doing this. We're all humans. And so you've got to be able to earn it. And you earn that through being consistent, being prepared, and being together. It's all about being together and being on the same page. I think we're well on our way. You know, I think there's an NBA championship in this team, right place. But is it going to happen this year? No, probably not. Next year, no. But you take this year, you take next year, you got to start making some noise. You know, last year we just kind of flamed out. We flamed out, and it was kind of the Cleveland Cavaliers typical story. You know, we were so this, and this throughout the season, and everybody's kind of starting to take a peek at us, and then we get hurt, and this happens, and then at the end of the year we get beat. No one even talks about us. You know, you can't have that happen again this year. Can't have that. You got to go into the playoffs. You got to make some noise. You got to scare some people. You know, you have to in order to have that building block. And there's pressure there. There's pressure there to make that happen. But it's good pressure because you've got the tools to do so. If you don't have the tools, that's real pressure. Pressure you got now is to not screw it up.
Right. No, absolutely. And Brad, thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time. I do have one quick follow-up because you did play on a young Cavs team that had so much talent that was all trying to develop at the same time while working towards a collective goal. Obviously, there's a parallel with this group. What advice have you given or would you give to this young Cavs core as they try to work on their own games while also working towards that collective goal of an NBA championship?
Yeah, you know, looking back to our young basketball team, the one thing that was really constant was the voice of Lenny Wilkins. And with that voice, it was always about the process. Okay. And what your part in the process is you learned what you were supposed to do in every play. And so I always tell guys, young guys, try to learn a little bit about what that guy's supposed to be doing. When you call, 43 orange, what is the point guard's job? You know what your job is. What is his job? And the reason why I always say what's the point guard's job is because he usually starts with the basketball. So when we played, I knew what Mark's job was on every play because he started with the basketball. All right. So I knew what his job was. And so I tell all these guys, from Donovan, to Isaac, what is Darius's job when you call a play? What is Donovan's job if he's running? Learn that. So if you do that, then you understand the process of where you're trying to get to. And when you understand that much of it, when a play doesn't work. When you've screwed up the play, you understand how it got screwed up. You don't need the coach yelling at you, calling a timeout to chew your rear end out because you screwed up. You know what happened in that play. Not the fact that you just didn't get the ball and make a shot. You knew that such and such missed a screen on Darius because that's the initiation. You know this. And so that becomes your focus. And so that becomes all about the process. And when you have process, you have culture, you have the ability to win.
Well, I could not appreciate your time more, your insight. I feel like I learned a lot, and we're going to continue enjoying listening to you on the Valley broadcast, and hopefully there's a lot more fun times ahead for the Cavs. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on. Have a good evening, and I enjoyed it. Look forward to doing it again.
Thank you so much, Brad.
All right, take care.
All right, see ya.
Yep.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Definitely cool to have Brad Daugherty on the podcast. And I mean, really, we get supported by the Cavs so well, setting us up with this interview, but we also get supported by our friends at Zoom incredibly well, Carter. Support for this podcast and the following message comes from Zoom. 500,000 businesses connect using Zoom, a single platform for phone, chat, workspaces, events, apps, and video. Zoom enables real-time collaboration for teams around the globe. Zoom, how the world connects. How's that for a segue, Carter?
It was really solid, Justin. I think it was the right time. Let's talk about that Grizzlies loss.
Yes.
What did you take away from that? Obviously, I think we have to probably start with. I want to start with the bummer stuff and then get into the fun stuff. I want to flip it a little bit, okay. Which was the lack of a timeout down the stretch. A lot of folks on the social medias not super thrilled. But I do think this is just one of those learning opportunities for the team and for the staff where, I think it was pretty clear, with absolutely no intel whatsoever that the plan was that they were going to just, not let the defense get set. And it is so hard to bail from that plan with 5 seconds left. So I'm pretty I'm pretty understanding of kind of how the game ended, but it's tough. And then obviously the block call on Jared Allen, that even though last 2-minute report said it was a correct call, I still don't disagree, or I still don't agree. But there was no challenge there. I mean, what were your thoughts on the end of the game?
Yeah, I would have liked to see a challenge there, even for my own sanity. I did agree with the concept of not letting Memphis get set after the Steven Adams tip-in. That's the best defense in the league right now. They've overtaken the Cavs. You got Dylan Brooks, who's a really good defender. Obviously, Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to have a legitimate Defensive Player of the Year case. So I like that call. Maybe when it all kind of got blown up, you could have theoretically called the timeout there, or with the Okoro inbound. I thought Garland missed, and it was a very brief window, and so maybe the length of Dylan Brooks kind of took that away. But there was one moment when Steven Adams was kind of hedging over and shadowing over to Garland, where I thought he could have hit Allen, and Allen could have made a play in the short roll. I think it would have opened up an opportunity for Mobley with the baseline Zadrinas Ilgauskas 16-foot jump shot there to maybe win the game. But these are kind of the learning experiences, right? Like trusting the team. Hey, yeah, I'm sure in that initial timeout, the game plan was we are going to go, whether it's a stop or whether it's a made basket, we're going to attack Memphis in transition rather than call a timeout and let them be set in a half-court defense. And I thought there was a decent enough opportunity there with the Allen roll after the high screen. But, it's disappointing. But at the same time, like, I feel like we would almost feel better about the Cavs if they weren't in so many close games. Like I looked at the team's clutch record, and right now the Cavs are 11th in clutch net rating, and they have a 16-12 record in clutch situations.
That about tracks for me. I mean, anecdotally, I think they've been fine in the clutch. I feel like this is much ado about nothing, frankly.
Well, here's the thing. The way of looking at that is out of the 18 losses, 12 of those have occurred in the clutch. So those aren't nights where you're sitting there thinking, oh, they didn't have it tonight. They lost by 10 points. They weren't in it. It is what it is. Let's write it off. Those are games that it all comes down to the wire. So every single decision, every mistake a player makes, any rotation that we don't agree with, that's going to go under the microscope in those situations because we're in every one of these games. But the fact that they're a 6-0 team in overtime, the fact that they have a winning record in clutch, they're above average in those situations, that to me is encouraging, especially when you look at guys being in and out of the lineup, and just the fact that there is going to be a learning curve and there are going to be growing pains with the young team. So I thought maybe it could have been managed better, but at the same time, that was a fantastic game by the Cavs against the hottest team in the league.
Bro, I thought it was a fantastic game from the coaching staff.
I agree.
Up until that moment at the end that I disagreed with their decision. I mean, I thought the willingness to go to Neto in the third quarter.
That was something we messaged about last night, was that we both really liked the rotations, going Neto and Rubio late in the third quarter, start of the fourth.
And on a night where Love,
great choice.
And on a night where Love, didn't have it, he only played 9 minutes, didn't play him in the second half, did the thing that we asked him to do. Jetty again, had a rough first half and didn't get to play in the second half. I saw some folks complaining about the Jetty minutes. I'm like, lack of minutes. And I'm like, well, Darius was awesome. Karras was quite good in this game.
Okoro was awesome.
And, I liked what the minutes Neto gave them, and those probably would have been Jetty minutes. So, like, I have no notes there. Ultimately, I think, you got to give a little credit to Memphis, man. Dylan Brooks is an absolute fiend on defense. Yeah. And he also blew up on the Okoro 5-second violation. He also blew that setup by completely, he got hit straight in the chest with a screen and just blew straight through it. Just an absolute dog on that side of the ball. The fact that they can put him on as a point of attack defender, because Jaw does have pretty good size at the one. Jaren is a true defensive savant. My God, I feel like he's gotten way smarter on defense than he was as a rookie, which I mean makes sense. He's older, but like I thought that team was awesome. I don't think they played a bad game by any means. I think again, and I think we can move into the pluses. I thought every time Isaac was on Ja, he played great. Every time Isaac was on Bane, he did great, other than he did fall asleep on that one corner three. Yeah. And I was like, come on, Ice. But
honestly, DG did a good job on Ja as well, right? Yep. Like, I think that's a contrast between the two of them is Darius does still take on all of these assignments, and Ja did not have a Ja Morant night. He had Ja plays, there were bursts, and down the stretch when it mattered, he was still awesome because he's Ja Morant. And he's so damn good at basketball. I've got a bit of a basketball crush with the Grizzlies. Like, I've got my gripes. Like, there's the little Warriors type stuff where it's like with the Warriors, there's always, they're awesome, but like, do you need the moving screens? Do you need all this? With Ja Morant, it's the carry ball. Whatever, he gets to play like a running back sometimes, that's fine. But I do really enjoy the Grizzlies overall, and I thought they played a great game. And honestly, there was the other play where Garland had an isolation possession on Jaren Jackson Jr., where Jaren blocked it from behind, and I believe that was what led to the 5-second violation. But the previous plays, Garland was going at Jaren, and he got him fouled. He scored on him a couple times.
I don't think one of those fouls was a foul, Justin.
Now, hey, you know what? If we're going to accept whatever they say happened, if we're going to have to say that the Jared Allen play was a block, we're going to say that Jaren fouled him.
Carter's basketball honesty felt like he had to mention that.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a generous one, but you know what? We deserve some breaks in life, Carter. We work hard, and so do the Cavs. But I thought Garland had done a good job individually in that matchup, and of course, Jaren playing with the fouls, it's going to impact his ability to be aggressive in those spots. But all in all, like I thought, a couple mistakes, the possessions that you'd like to have back. There was the late possession where Mobley just should have been a little more decisive in the short roll and got called, I believe, for a double dribble. But, overall, it was just such a good game. And honestly, I think that was the best game of Isaac Okoro's career. It's
hard to say anything else could be. I mean, that Suns game, his rookie year,
he scored 30 before in a game, and he had the game against Philly last year. That was great. But I think from a complete effort standpoint, that was the best game that we've seen from him. And I tweeted this out from the pod account today. But since February 1st, people criticize me for my small sample sizes. Since February 1st of last year.
That's a big sample size. I heard that's almost a year, Justin.
That's almost a year. Isaac Okoro is shooting 38% from three. Now, he's got to get the volume up, but I am so encouraged with what we're seeing from him. And that is a meaningful sample. And just the confidence to take it. The Mobley pass to him in the fourth quarter, big moment where it was low and to the left, and he caught it, brought it back over.
Couldn't believe it.
Still got the arc on the shot too. Like, that's something we wouldn't have seen earlier in the season. If a pass was off, the arc wasn't there. So I think the hard work is really paying dividends, and I could not be happier with what we've seen from Okoro.
I mean, it was just, the three looks really pure leaving his hand right now. He's taken some that aren't in the pure corner. He's taken some, a few steps in towards the wing. Those weren't shots he was taking. He had a couple really strong rim attacks, against a somewhat stabilized defense that looked really, really fluid. I thought his on-ball defense was great again against one of the tougher foul merchants in the league. He only had 2 personal fouls. It's hard not to be thrilled. He had a great weak side block in the fourth quarter, protecting Allen and Mobley, who had been committed elsewhere on the play. He is really, really playing good basketball. And, it's funny, like, our dear friend of the pod and our former boss, David Zavak, is still kind of griping about the volume, like saying 6 shots isn't enough. I'm kind of fine with 6 to 8 shots a game, like, for your 5th option on offense, like, Like, I think he was perfectly worth paying attention to. I feel like if he's shooting 2 for 4 from 3 every night, in his 30 to 30, 25 to 30 minutes, like, fine by me, pal.
Yeah. I have a hard time saying whether or not 6 is enough because it all is dictated by the game, right? Like, I think it's at a point now that the team
he's taking the open shots.
The team needs to find him when he's open. Like, make that pass. Let's see if the defenses eventually adjust, if he's going to get that volume up. But on a night where I thought Darius was great. I thought Okoro was great. I thought Mobley had an amazing game as well. It didn't feel like there were any possessions left on the table for Okoro, and that's
did you like how hard Mobley was going at Jaren? Like, even with somewhat mixed results, he had 6 turnovers, but I liked that he wasn't, he was not backing down by any means.
I'll say this. I would rather lose a game at this point. A tight game like this that's heartbreaking and it matters in the standings. I would rather lose a game like this because guys like Evan Mobley and Darius Garland and Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell are trying. Well, I guess not Donovan Mitchell.
Donnie's pretty finished product.
The man's got a bit of a track record at this point. It's okay. But I'd rather Mobley be assertive in those spots. And of course, some of this is informed by the fact that he's been awesome in the clutch and he's been awesome in fourth quarters. But I'd rather see him try stuff in those spots than have him be tentative, right? Like, I think those are the long-term indicators of, okay, he's got that dog in him. He's someone that's going to be assertive in these moments. He's not scared of the moments. The fact that he hit that game winner against the Suns when he was having a bad game and had the confidence to take him, that's all the indicators that I want to see that this guy is a competitor and he's not scared of the moment. So that's what I want to see from him. And I thought that this was, considering the stage, considering the opponent, being shorthanded, I thought this was one of their better games of the year, even though it didn't result in a win.
Yeah, ultimately, and there are, I think
I'm taking a moral victory, man. I don't pull the moral victory card often. This one I'm calling moral victory. It might even have been a moral blowout.
You're an idiot. I really, it's funny. You do see still though why the team traded for Donovan Mitchell. Darius doesn't have that top athletic gear to shake, a fully honed defense that's just looking to stop him like they were in that moment. If Donnie catches that ball in the wing, on the safety valve on that last play, like, he's attacking and he's gonna get a really good look. So, like, I still think, like,
even just the ability to run that Garland, Allen, Mitchell, Horns action, like, that's their bread and butter this season. And that to me would be my late game offense. I would have that with a shooter in the corner and then having Evan Mobley kind of be that outlet cutting to the basket. Like, that to me would be crunch time offense if you had all of your pieces. But you're right. Like, this is exactly why you have Donovan Mitchell. Yeah.
So, like, you kind of see the bigger picture, and, like, that's why I'm kind of on team. That's another reason I wasn't particularly grumpy. I just think we win the game if Donnie is there,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought the team really, really battled. The bench remains a problem right now, right? You're just not getting enough scoring from that group. You're not getting enough shooting from that group right now. They went, 1 of 5. 2 of 6. Yeah, it's not great. They hit 3 threes off the bench on 12 shots. The volume.
Every single one of the starters had a positive plus minus, right? Like, they were plus 10 in the minutes that Darius was on the court, and I think some of that.
He played 39.
I think some of that's going to stabilize as Ricky gets a little bit better. Obviously,
I like how many threes Ricky's taken.
Do you know how many threes? Oh, I do.
I was setting you up, but fine.
Yeah, Ricky is taking 10 threes per 36 minutes. That man is getting them up right now. I'm enjoying it. Obviously, the bench lineup is going to be more stable when you have Garland and Mitchell to stagger as well. But as Ricky gets more comfortable, I think you're going to see that work out for the Cavs a little bit better.
Yeah, and once we see Dean get back, and ideally,
once
back
Kevin's
and healthy,
hand is feeling better, like that was the other thing since our last podcast, is that Kevin Love did say to Chris Fedor that, hey, my thumb is still in pain in my shooting hand. And, to JB's credit, exactly what we said on the podcast last time, which was, hey, let Kevin be out there, let him play for a little bit, see how it's going. And then if it's not working out, you might have to pull the hook. That's exactly what they did against Memphis. And I think you need to keep giving him opportunities, and because the upside of him when he's not in this slump is worth investing in. But for the time being, this is probably how you have to deploy him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that better days are ahead for this bench. I think the starter and again, Karras was had to start tonight. His 23 points, if they were off the bench, would look a lot different. So, I'm at the point where I'm feeling really, really good about kind of that game. I feel like they've had a lot of close losses that I didn't feel like were moral victories, but this one I had a good feeling about, and the Cavs didn't let me down. So I'll tip my cap, but boy, do I want to beat the damn Golden State Warriors, because this team will be on a back-to-back to play in Boston, so it should be a letdown game for them. They're a team that is absolutely atrocious on the road thus far this season. This is a should win, but these dudes, I think they're still coming at us because of all the 3-1 jokes, Justin. These guys play their asses off whenever they play us, and I want to just beat them anyway.
I don't apologize for any of those jokes, even if that is the case.
Not a one.
I like that the hurt from the 1 year is enough to still sustain that fire for them. Even though it causes them to get up for the Cavs, that's just more proof of how much 2016 hurts. And wasn't it Draymond that kind of hinted that he'd trade a couple in for that one?
I don't know, but that sounds like the thing he would have said.
It's also just fan fiction in my brain. My brain is constant fan fiction going, so maybe that's part of it. But I want to beat the Warriors, and part of why I want to beat the Warriors is that game on Saturday is really, really tough against the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis went through a full practice. They haven't played since Tuesday. Obviously, the Cavs will be playing tomorrow, so that's going to be a tough one. But then after that, even though the Cavs are heading on the road, there's some more winnable games basically from here on out. And you know what, Carter? Honestly, obviously the health of Donovan Mitchell is hanging over the team, but I'm going to just say for the record, I do feel like a run is coming. I feel like this team is getting very close to it all clicking. I don't know if it's just Isaac Okoro kind of breaking out of a shell and finding some consistency, and Darius clearly looks better without the thumb sling on,
and the schedule getting objectively easier.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of it too, but we've seen them drop games that they should win already this season, but sure. I think they're starting to find more of a groove. They're starting to learn how to play with one another more, and maybe I'm just reading way too much into that Grizzlies game, but I feel like things are going to be on the come up very soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've alternated wins and losses their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. So, they're playing 500 ball right now. A couple of those losses shouldn't have been losses. A couple of them were lucky to be as close as we were. But it's time to, if they want to make a push for home court in this ridiculous Eastern Conference, they are going to have to make a run soon. So, my hope is that they are splitting this back-to-back. But man,
I would take any combination of splitting this back to back.
Absolutely. And I guarantee you these guys are looking forward to the 2 days off after the Milwaukee game, because they have played every other day since January 2nd. Since December 31st. No, since December 29th they've played every other day. That's insane. So these guys have been and on road trips, and even when they've been home, it's been a home stop just to go back on the road. So this is a point where things should get a little easier on their bodies, and ideally we'll see that pay dividends.
Yeah, it's always important to remember the human side of things. And honestly, talking to Brad kind of was a nice reminder of that too, right? Just remembering that isn't a game that can just be reduced to math. Like, math can kind of help contextualize what's going on out there, but at the end of the day, it's people. Some days you have it, some days you don't. You learn from your mistakes, and I think that the Cavs are absolutely on the right track. So I'm looking for this. Fingers crossed for at least a split this weekend. We will be back next week. Got an awesome guest for you, I believe, as well. Big thanks to Brad Daugherty for joining us on this podcast. And again, while there's still voting open, at least vote Donovan Mitchell in as an all-star starter. Hopefully the coaches do the right thing and bring in at least one more Cleveland Cavalier. I'm sure we'll have those discussions on later podcasts. But big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and want to support us, you can leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of the Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of a review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.